he died, and it really it struck me and haunted me, and I was aware of some of the tragedy around the family. And then I think as a filmmaker, I was revisiting them as possibly exploring this as a film, and it just sort of had all the things I'm interested in. It just it's a complicated family dynamic. It's asking questions about success and sort of ideals of the American dream and masculinity and looking at how someone finds themselves within a complicated family. And so it was just all the things that I'm interested in, really.
Well, it's so wonderful. For you, Stanley, when you think about Michael and the vulnerability that he really brings to the family, he's so tender. Can you talk to me a little bit about working through that? You're surrounded by all of these very high testosterone, masculine people, but you really bring this tenderness. Not that you aren't yourself, but you bring such a tenderness to the role, and I thought that was so important. So can you talk about working through that and bringing that to light?
Well, thank you. I mean, they are great actors, and they are pretty tender people in their real life. Yeah, I mean, I think that well, I could say one, that Sean created an environment on set where it was just very easy to just. It was just very tender. No, it was easy to be vulnerable and open, and the character kind of needed to do that, to be there, to feel, to show that tolerance, I guess, I think that working with these guys was really fun and easy, and I was able to be open and show that I don't know, that vulnerability that Mike had, and I think that. I was working out as well. I was trying to eat a lot as well. But yeah, no. It was fun, and I think Mike, it was really fun.
We had the most epic cheat day of all time, because we at this point we were all eating pretty strict diets, really strict. Fuck. And there was a day when Sean just put us in a truck and we just started driving around, and eventually we kind of ran out of things to say, and it just divulged into us eating, at least I ate 3 whole cheeseburgers over a 10-minute take, and it was so much fun. It was, yeah.
They almost looked to you for permission to eat it as well. You were like, eat it. Eat all of them.
Go.
That's wonderful, and such a moment of bonding, obviously, in a film that can be very intense. So for you, Harris, can you talk about the camaraderie that you built on the set with your co-stars and your brothers?
Yeah, I mean, I think, the obvious thing is we were really lucky just to get along very quickly, but I think the main sort of acceleration of getting to know someone, we jumped into the ring before sort of knowing each other, and we learned to wrestle at the same time, and I think that really bonded us. And Jeremy said it well the other day, we were sort of all humiliated at the same time, and it's true, when you put on those sort of tight, sweet hot pants that we all got to wear, and you sort of have to grapple each other, there's a real acceleration of it, so it was great. And then on set we also shot a lot of the more sort of family orientated stuff on the farm first, which really helped us get to know each other on a personal level, and then we got to wrestle later. So yeah, just the sort of camaraderie of that, and ZAC was the best cheerleader, constantly sending us messages and just encouraging us so beautifully along the way, and just led this film so well, so that helped.
Now, Jeremy, I know that ZAC and now Harris have hinted about the physicality and the amount of work that it took to get into this incredible amount of shape that you guys had to do. Can you talk about your regimen or how you guys got through that?
Me? This is a question for me?
I don't know. I just, I remember speaking to Sean about, the film, and he was describing I wasn't familiar with the Von Erichs before, and so he was describing the film and the brothers and kind of what happened, and I was like, this sounds amazing, oh my god, and I'd known Sean for a long time, I was so excited, and he was like, I want you to play Kerry Von Erich, and I said, great, and then I googled Kerry Von Erich, and I went, what? So for me, I think I was just like, how much do I have to eat? How often do I have to eat? I wasn't concerned with like trying to have a six-pack even or any. I was just like, I want to try and get bigger. So I was just eating really consistently and lifting heavy things all the time on set and otherwise. Just trying. I think Zach maybe had a
Also, every
more
time,
straight
just to
route.
say, every time we went for dinner, because of the bear, people would just bring out so much food. So I think Jeremy's success and thighs is due to the chefs of Baton Rouge. So
That was an amazing place we want to eat for sure.
It's true, yeah.
Now for you, Zach, I think Kevin, I think he's now the sole living member of this generation of the Von Erichs. That's such a responsibility, not just physically, but mentally. Did you feel any pressure to make sure that you were bringing him to life in a way that made sure he was really represented?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's just having in the back of your mind, or in the front of your mind rather, that you know, at some point Kevin's going to see this movie, and you know, and on top of that, you know, just experiencing it from Sean's perspective, I just became a massive fan of Kevin. So you know, I think there was an added element of pressure, but it's the good kinds of pressure. It's the kind that really makes you, that I personally get extra sort of driven from. And yeah, in those you know, months leading up to the film and for all the kind of physical preparation, like thinking of Kevin would get me into the gym and would you know, keep me extra regimented. And so yeah, I mean, it was really special. Opportunities like this just they don't come around often enough, and you know, I really wanted to leave it all on the field and do the absolute all the work, you know, on behalf of Kevin. Yeah. So.
Now for you, Sean, I know that you chose to conflate some of the timeline, obviously, because it's cinema, but also you chose not to add Chris, which is the sixth brother, into the story. Can you talk about your decisions when you thought about what you wanted to put in and what you wanted to leave out?
Yeah, I mean, when I first laid out the timeline of events, which is not an easy thing to put together because wrestling is filled with unreliable narrators and gossip and shit talk and all this stuff. So when you actually, like, once we found the reputable sources and got to the facts and you lay it out, it's like this epic Greek tragedy that just would not fit in 10 hours of television, you know, so to make it a film, there was just years and years of choices, chipping away at that, finding the core of the story, and I wrote for 7 years, and very carefully just made decisions bit by bit to get to the core film that this is, which was, you know, dictated by, I think, Kevin's survival and the way that Kevin speaks, and Kevin, I think part of why Kevin survived is because he's so open and unafraid to look at the bad times, the good times, and he's so honest about it. And so when I started out, like, you could just see the way he talks about things. He's just so wise, and he'd been through it, and I just, that became the center of the film, and so everything had to service that as the center of the film in order to fit it into, you know, just over 2 hours. And there was a lot of things. There was Chris Von Erich, so there was another brother who's not depicted, and he was in the script for years, and it was the hardest decision I've ever made as a writer, because on a human level, I'm like, how could I not depict him? But as you separate, you're like, okay, well, wait, you know, do we want to make this film or not? Do we want, you know, do we want the screenplay to work or not? And you have to separate and say, okay, I'm gonna make this really difficult choice, and I'm gonna take the things that I love about Chris, and I'm gonna combine Mike and Chris. And Mike on screen is sort of a combination of Mike and Chris. And you know, there are other things too. I mean, like, David was a parent. David lost a child. She was a year old and she died. You know, Kerry has 2 daughters, and they're not depicted. So there's, you know, there's so much. And as making a film about real people, real family, it's never right. There's no film that's accurately represented every part of someone's life. It's just not possible. And so you do your best to find a truth that you think represents the story you're telling, and you do the best you can to honor the family and the you know, the events, and hope you get to something core that resonates with people, and find that reason of like why to make this and why to do it now. And so that was always the goal.
For you gentlemen, I'd love to hear from all of you, or a couple of you, about working with Holt and Mara, who play your parents in the film. I think they represented such an interesting pillar, not only people who were born and lived at a certain time, but people who also had certain beliefs. And I thought seeing that relationship was so important into understanding how the Von Erich family dynamic worked.
First thing that comes to mind with Holt is they're both amazing, but Holt squeezed my head really hard in that scene when he puts the claw on me. That's all I can remember. No, they're both incredible. Yeah.
Holt also, I mean, all of us, I think we really just respect him as an actor, and I know that, you know, the weight of his presence. We all looked up to him immediately. I think that inherently, he's somebody you enjoy pleasing, and that carried over a lot, you know, over the course of filming. It was he did have this position of authority that really, I don't know, I think it came across really well, because I think it was very natural, and boy, he's so fun to work with. Holy shit.
And I'd say more, like, she's amazing as well. I mean, like, that scene where she's looking at the dress. Oh my God, that's wrecks me. And you know, she's a veteran, so as someone who's, this is my first large scale production. She was so welcoming and open about. You know, I had a lot of questions, and she was really kind and sweet. So yeah. And I also say there's a certain generation that at least my parents kind of came from, like that where it's like you don't talk about the you know, you don't talk about anything really. You don't open like the way the as you was depicted in the film, and it just, I think it was just a lot of people dealt with that, and it was just like a generational thing, especially like baby boomers. I think it was a big thing.
I think a lot of people are going to relate to that, though, man. I don't know if it's ever really gone away.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
There were, you know, parts of Fritz and you know, just the whole family dynamic that I know I could relate to on a lot of levels. And my dad's a lovely guy, but I think that a lot of people aim to please their parents and can lose sight of themselves, you know, in the process.
Very powerful. I also wanted to talk to you guys about actually depicting the movement, the Iron Claw, because I think what's so important is for someone like me who like grew up on the south side of Chicago, I don't know anything about wrestling, no, but you didn't make it cheesy, and it was so important to get this time period and that gesture correct. So can you talk about working to make sure that came off properly on screen?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm a wrestling fan, and I know the wrestling world is brutal. If you make something about wrestling and it's not good, they will tear you down in seconds. And so I said to Chava, when I brought in Chava, I was like, this has to be the best. It has to be you know, we have to aim to make the best movie about wrestling ever. Like, you have to have the highest bar. And some of that is, you know, preparation, and some of it is luck that these guys are naturals, and they could, you know, they learned quickly, and they wrestled, they worked really hard, and they could wrestle full matches. And I think that allowed for us to do all the things we wanted to do, which was to wrestle the full matches and for them to do their own stunts so that we could feel the emotions of what the characters are going through. And for me, wrestling is all about emotion, whether it is performed or, you know, whether we are fans who, like, for me, like, as a kid, I was super quiet, and I could go to wrestling and I could express myself. I could scream and I could cry. You know, I can remember my favorite wrestler getting, losing, like getting thrown out of the ring in Royal Rumble and going up to my room and crying. You know, it's just, it allowed me to feel, and I wasn't crying about Sid Vicious losing at Royal Rumble. I was crying because I was frustrated in my life as a kid and I couldn't express myself. So like, it was an outlet, and the wrestlers in the ring are performing these gestures, but in their personal lives, they're, you know, especially at the time, they're falling into these constraints of masculinity and what a man is supposed to be, and they're hiding it all inside. They're not talking about how depressing it is to be on the road 300 nights a year, you know, and that emotional exploration was so crucial to me, and something that I really connected to.
I think we alluded to it previously, but mental health for me is a thing that's said but not spoken about. And it's such a heavy story. So how did you guys work to make sure that you were mentally well while depicting these characters?
I don't know if it worked. I think that, you know, just due to the nature of the story and the physical prep and the wrestling became an obsession for me. It was really something to focus on. It took me to places that I didn't really put together until after the film was complete, but I wouldn't say I was in the best mental health over the course of filming it. It was taking a lot out of me, but you know, I think that was one of the reasons that I think the story is so beautiful, and was what Sean spoke about early on. That was really attractive and ambitious to do. You know, this film doesn't really hit you over the head with that message, but rather kind of invites you along. And I think it definitely makes you aware, you know, how susceptible everyone is to this sort of feeling and emotion. And you know, it really is beautiful to see somebody like Kevin be able to sort of break the cycle of this curse and emerge on the other end. And also just to talk with him today, you know, and see what he's created in his life, with so much love surrounding him, and you know, a massive family, and really living his absolute best life after going through such trials and tribulations when he was young. So really beautiful.
I always try to, I'm quite used to dealing with tough subject matters. You know, I've made things about shootings and, you know, life in an abusive cult. And so I'm not, you know, I'm used to darker material, but in terms of the work atmosphere, like, it's always very light, you know? It's like, I think that's something I try to do to make the experience, I don't know, we laugh a lot too, you know, it's like,
It was a fun set.
it's like we all do the difficult work, and we all go there emotionally and feel it, and it weighs on us. I mean, it definitely weighs on me as well, making this and putting myself in this family's shoes for years, and it can't, if you do it properly, it can't not. But also, we also try to take the moments of making the film itself, and like those days on the ranch were just, you know, really relaxed and fun, and we were out there, and you know, the days in the sportatorium where we're wrestling, it's just it's quite joyous as well. So again, it's like just trying to embrace it all at once.
Wonderful. I'd like to thank you all so much for your time. Everyone, let's give another round of applause.